really understanding and having conversations with people on who they are today, who they want to become tomorrow, gets everybody rallied around that vision and mission for the company. And I think that's a piece that's missing because we're so worried about the day in, day out execution of a task. 80% of people's day-to-day work is controllable. The 20% is where you unlock their true creativity potential that drives your business forward.
Welcome back to Conversations That Grow podcast, where we explore how the right conversations can shape our business, leadership, and even how we see the world. Today, I'm talking with Meredith Walker. Meredith is the founder of Fortifying Roots, a strategic consultant, and a powerful voice in leadership development. Meredith helps businesses cut through complexity, align systems with strategy, and make confident decisions that actually move the needle. Welcome to the show, Meredith.
Thank you. It's so great to be here.
Thank you. Meredith, let's kick off with my first question. Can you tell me about a conversation or a moment that changed the way you think about leadership or business?
Yeah, it actually is a personal conversation that I think helped shaped me, and it's a very deep, dark topic. But I think that set up a foundation and principle for how I communicate and have conversations directly and with true authenticity. So my mom, a lot of my story and background is regarding how I took care of my mom. I think that's what had provided me a lot of resilience and strength. And 10 years after she became quadriplegic, we actually had to have a deep conversation because she was diagnosed with breast cancer. And I had to really find a way and dig deep to have a brave, direct conversation about what do next steps look like. And the reason why I think that was a pivotal conversation for me to have was because you have to show up authentically. You have to show up knowing that you're meeting the other person where they're at while you are also trying to, categorize your feelings or do anything pertaining to the way that you feel emotionally. So as a leader, I found having really direct, brave conversations, even in hard times, is what really helps grow people. Because if you're coming from a place of empathy and authenticity, and something else I talk about, controllable, tangible things, the conversation doesn't get easier, but it opens up the dialogue where two people come to the place of strength and bravery to have open, honest conversations. So that's probably the first conversation that I had to have, was one, both very difficult, but then set the tone for how I had leadership or management conversations from there on out.
That's incredible. Thank you so much for sharing. I'd love to unpack that a bit.
Yeah, please.
So you became a caregiver at quite a young age.
Yes.
What age was that, and what did you go through? What was that like for you?
Yeah, thank you for asking that. I was roughly around 23 years old, and while I'm the youngest in my family, I was usually leaned upon as the most knowledgeable or at least resilient even at that time. And so financially, physically, emotionally, had to become a caregiver for my mom almost immediately. What that looked like was a lot of scary moments. And in that time, what I would give anybody when there's circumstances that are not within your control, if you lean on understanding that there's a chance someone has been through something similar to this, then your opportunities to research or connect or network do unlock quite a bit. And you have so much more in you than I think anybody gives themselves credit for. So an example I would give of this is one of my mom's dreams, even after being quadriplegic, was to enter the ocean again. She was very much someone who loved to go into the beach. And through lots of research, I knew this had to come up. She's not the only person who would have to go through this. I found out that every state beach rents out essentially water-bound wheelchairs that allow you to enter for free. And so those are just little things that I think helped shape who I am, who I was to become, and all of the I don't let no and I don't let the unknown stop me from digging deeper and networking and having conversations with people who have gone through this, because you're not alone and you don't have to start from scratch. So it was very difficult. It was very rewarding. And I think those lessons and moments in life is who shaped who I am, and had the bravery to step out and start my own business, even because I would never have envisioned that 20 years ago.
That's really incredible. I think that's really coming through as well as you speak. And you mentioned at the beginning that it taught you resilience and strength. And as your story unfolds, I think that's becoming more and more clear. I'd love to know what that season taught you about resilience, and even responsibility at 23 years old, having to take care of your mom, and I guess even expanding onto decision making as well.
Yeah, a lot of things that I like to speak about or teach youth. I mentor and try to coach a lot of youth, college-age students. But when things are out of your control, I really tried to focus on controllable factors, because you become so overwhelmed in a circumstance that you feel it can take you over, and you can have some sort of paralysis or inability to move forward. And so I just recall at that time, when I was that age, my mom's medication was $10,000 a vial to potentially reverse the effects of what were happening to her. And I don't know what 23-year-old has $30,000, because she needed a minimum of 3. And so I want people to know that you just have to dig in, and really, there was no GoFundMe, so I couldn't get on a platform that allowed this to be funded. So I researched. I reached out to the distributor of the medication. I really tried to figure out, how can I raise this money, by hanging up flyers or reaching out to contacts that we had. But the thing that I found about resilience is that your ideas do not automatically lead to a success or a resolution. But as long as you continue to focus on, okay, I never got that $30,000, just to be honest. We didn't. I raised enough to maybe get one vial, and then had to figure out how to get another vial. And at 23 years old, I was not making a lot. I was making maybe $11 to $13 an hour. And so I found out and learned at that point in time that I could borrow back against a car that I had. So I took another loan out for my mom for the car. And what happened was it still didn't reverse the effects, right? But I had to do everything that I could in order as an attempt. And when those setbacks occur, you can't let that bring you down. It's always, what's next? Where do we move from here? What conversations can I have and network with the medical team? And so I learned very quickly that the way you communicate to people and how you network with people has really deep value. And when you're frustrated and that comes across, a lot of people try to shut down and they don't want to help you. But when you lean in with authenticity and empathy of, I'm not asking you to solve this problem, I'm asking you to help me shape what next steps would look like, people actually come to the plate with an opportunity for you for the next step. And so we never were able to reverse her condition, but learned a lot, gave it that. I would hate to have regrets over money. Money is something that you can always earn, but the opportunity for us to get over or cure what was happening to her was really in the forefront. And then when that didn't happen, yes, allow it to hit you and say, oh my gosh, that didn't work. But very quickly I had to rally and say, okay, what is next? What does the next steps look like? Where do we go from here? What do we do next?
That's incredible. I think, there's so many life lessons in just the little that you have said. There's so much that you have learned. I learned in that time, and were able to and are able to continue using in what you're doing in life and in business. And that's really incredible. And I love how you're passing it on as well to the youth that you mentor.
Yeah, I think that's really my responsibility, to be honest, because life feels so overwhelming sometimes. And I think people cap themselves at what they're capable of doing, especially at that age. And so I want them to understand you're setting on a path. You feel like you have to have it all figured out. And then something happens. And I was around their age when something very big happened. And it doesn't always have to be that catastrophic or that critical or that urgent. but sometimes you give up on yourself, and that's what I'm really hopeful to interject into. Even in businesses and leaders, like just focus on the things that you can tackle, because if you focus on everything that's occurring, you're going to become overwhelmed and want to shut down. But focus on what you can control and get positive momentum forward, not backwards.
Yeah, no, that's good. I mean, not just for the youth, for all of us listening.
Yeah, yes, I agree.
Yeah. Meredith, before we move on, I'd love to know more about what happened with your mom.
Yes, my mom contracted, and it's really particular. I'm not quite sure if this is how you say it, but she had Guillain-Barré syndrome, which is, the acronym is GBS, and you catch it like you catch a cold. And it is prevalent here in the U.S. My mom was in the Philippines traveling when she caught it. And so it's as soon as you contract it like a cold, your body views it as something attacking it, and your nervous system shuts down. So within 24 hours, all she could do is blink.
Oh, wow.
The thing is there is a really strong recovery rate. The problem was my mom was on a ventilator for 8 months. And so the permanent nerve damage, because we were having such complications from her beating this autoimmune ailment, was her having to be on the ventilator for so long. So, and then getting her from, I was born here in the U.S. and I've been lucky enough to travel to the Philippines a couple of times, but trying to get her from the Philippines back to the U.S., financially care for her, fly there frequently to help her out. Was just all of these learning experiences that I had to go through at a very young age. So, yeah, that's what she ended up having, GBS. But what ended up, as I shared at the very top of the hour, we had, she ended up passing away from breast cancer. So,
I'm sorry to hear that.
yeah, thank you.
Meredith, you said that success isn't about circumstances. It's about the decisions that we make. So how did that mindset develop for you? Can you flesh that out a little bit more?
Yeah, I think the thing that resonates with me is that your circumstances do not dictate what success looks like. When the circumstances occurred or continued to occur, to me, I found that I viewed that as the fork in the road. Okay, the circumstance is the fork in the road, whether that be positive or negative. And it led me on a lot of great adventures. And so what I hope people, especially in a professional mindset, feel is you always view circumstances. My background is technology. I've been in technology a long time. Technology is one of the least controllable departments in an organization. But I never viewed what happened or occurred as a circumstance that just made me want to give up or shut down. And so I always view circumstances as a fork in the road and, okay, my pros and cons, here are my lists, here is the next action. Very quickly sometimes because of how urgent it is in technology to really assess, okay, here are the top 5 things that I can do. This is the scenario or the outcome if I do execute on that. So for me, I think that success is what you define success to be. It could be very big. It could be very small. We don't celebrate small wins on a regular basis as professionals. We are always looking for that next outcome, that next milestone, that next pivotal successful moment. And so I really like to resonate in teams that I lead, that we're going to celebrate really small successful moments, especially when we get over a particularly hard circumstance. So, did that answer?
Interesting. It does. It does. And what I was thinking as you were talking was that sometimes, you're saying about defining what success means for you, and sometimes in business we define what success is based on targets, based on other people's ideas of what success should be. Yep. And I mean, not that any of that is wrong as far as targets, and you gotta have the ROI as well. But I guess what I'm trying to say is that if you really understand what success means for you, you could find that you're not in the right place either, right? As far as business goes.
Yeah, I would completely agree with that. And being honest, I mean, in my 40s is when I was like, I love what I do and I love growing the people that are around me. but I have such unlimited potential if I struck out on my own and tried something else. So I think in every season, you can redefine what success looks like for yourself. I would also say that the goals and the strategy that an organization builds for you is the pinnacle success for that organization, but it's not for your team, and it's potentially not for your department. And so it's really up to us as leaders and having really clear communication and conversations on, if people don't know how to be your employee and get to that attainable goal that the president or the owners have put on everybody down, then they're not going to be motivated in their day-to-day actions. And so really understanding and having conversations with people on who they are today, who they want to become tomorrow, gets everybody rallied around that vision and mission for the company. And I think that's a piece that's missing because we're so worried about the day in, day out execution of a task. But I was always particularly worried on 80% of people's day-to-day work is controllable. And when you're able to lay that foundation for them, the 20% is where you unlock their true creativity potential that drives your business forward. And that's where I think we have to get into the conversations and be meeting each other where we're at, and not get into this robotic moment of A equals B equals C. We have to break out of that mold and have that conversation.
No, that's good. So as leaders, what would that look like, do you think?
I think for me personally, when I go into an organization, I really resonate and tell people that your folks have to understand really easily what it takes to be a good employee of yours. That's the only way that you're going to get them, the morale up for them to become good leaders of yours. So it's really solid process. That's really solid system use. And then that unlocks the potential for them as people, because this is a really silly analogy that I use, but imagine that I'm in my car and I know the speed limit is 75 miles per hour. Here in Texas, it's about 75 miles per hour on the highway. So I know I could take it to 83 because before I get pulled over with a ticket. That's me taking creative liberty. I mean, please don't quote me on that, and don't do that. That is not safe. But what I use in a business strategy is, if they didn't know what the speed limit was, if they don't know the direction you're going, if they don't know what exits to take, where the construction is, how do we expect people to really drive well for you? And then when they do know, if we laid all of that foundation there and they do know, imagine how much more efficient you become, because they're like, hey, I know my baseline, but now I know how to push it. Before it, I know I have the safety net, I know I have these guardrails, and now I can become creative, who I really want to be, and then push the limit a little bit. And that's where the creativity, that's where people want to be a little bit more efficient in their business strategy. You see this really relevant when they're training a new hire and they're like, oh, that's what's written, but this is how I do it because it cuts off 10 minutes or it cuts off this process. Within reason, if that is a good process that they've implemented, you've seen their creativity, but what we're seeing is the manager does not have a clear communication with this person for them to rewrite the SOP. So that's what I mean going into businesses, how I help managers and end users align to become really efficient and have really good guardrails, baselines, to allow them an opportunity to become who they want to be. Because a lot of people are really creative and have great ideas. We just don't have the conversations that allow them to show up that way.
Yeah. So I think what I'm hearing you say is that it's setting expectations, or the employees to understand what the expectations are, and then leaving room for that creativity that you talk about.
Yeah. And that also leads into whenever someone says, if there's a coaching conversation that has a critical coaching conversation that's not a good topic, someone tells me an employee is behaving a particular way. Exactly as you had mentioned. I say, what was the expectation? How was it communicated? What does the SOP say they did or didn't do? What is the process or procedure that they did or didn't do? Because I can't hold people accountable based on feelings. I can hold people accountable based on the expectations I clearly communicated, whether verbal or written, and or how their workflow is supposed to occur. And so that's how you can see more controllable things can happen, and management aligns a lot easier, and then people can become leaders. And It is a really distinct difference, in my opinion. Management is tangible, leadership is not. Leadership are all of those soft skills that people can grow into, but if they're so worried about doing their job well, they're not really focused on how do I become a better leader, or they're more focused on being a better leader that they miss out on being a really great manager.
Yeah. So what do you find as far as communication goes? Like, what kind of role does that play?
Oh my gosh. Communication, I think, is the baseline of everything good and bad in any relationship. When there's two people, it has to happen with communication and clear, direct communication. That's missing a lot of days because we don't want to hurt people's feelings. And I'm not saying to ever become unkind in the way that we communicate, but it's still really unfair if I'm telling someone you're doing a great job, but don't tell them where they're doing a great job so that they can really understand and celebrate and be proud of the work that they've put in. But then on the flip side, if you're not doing a great job or if something is happening, are the expectations clear? Are they also reasonable? That's the hard part too. We want people to work exactly like us, and people only show up in the way that makes sense to them. So when we're so frustrated in how a person behaves, they're only behaving that way because their needs aren't met. And so we really have to work on ourselves and self-discovery if we are proclaiming ourselves as leaders, and we have the privilege of sitting in a higher seat where we get to manage others. Then we have to be really thoughtful in how we meet them halfway and not expect them to always come and understand what's in our brains. What we're all different personality traits, so why would I expect them to exactly be like me? That's not a reasonable expectation.
Yeah, agreed. How do you work with people who think they're great communicators but not?
Yeah, I do a decision tree map, as elementary as that sounds. So if you tell me an example of anything, hey Meredith, I want you to execute this task. Then I say, am I prepared to execute this task? I'll ask them. We'll do a communication exercise. Am I prepared to execute this task? Yes, no. If I say, no, I'm not prepared, then I ask them another series of questions. What specifically does it take to execute this task to your expectations? What does success look like? So I do that in several iterations for people to understand how clear you have to communicate to people who are at an entry level or front lines basis, because that really unlocks for them, oh my gosh, I could just bullet point step 1, step 2, step 3, or I could take the time and really grow them and grow our communication style. I also try to learn other people's communication style. Am I a listening learner? Am I a reading learner? Am I a visual learner? That also helps you when you're leading teams and communication. Children, I don't have children, but I've got a lot of nieces and nephews. A lot of them are not listening learners. So I have to really be very detailed in what my expectation and what I need from them. It would be an example as to why I would break this down as detailed as I am. But the hard part is people don't have patience for that clear of communication.
So would you use the same principles to help them find that clarity that they need in order to make those better decisions as well? Just going back to that.
Yeah, that's where I'm hopeful that they understand in a business, in a department that you lead, everybody's job should have clear expectations. Here's what I bring to the table. Here's what expected of you to bring to the table in both hard skills and soft skills. And then from there, if it's written out, we both agree upon it. That's the thing. We both have to agree upon it, because then later when you do not execute it that way, then I can hold us both accountable. And I would hope you hold me accountable too. Hey, Meredith, you said you were going to clearly speak this way and you're not. This is a mutual agreement here. And it's really that in an organization is how we shape how we're going to grow as a partnership instead of a dictatorship where I'm telling you every day what to do. You have all of the rules and regulations. You're on the highway. I'm just going to let you drive because you know exactly your guardrails, your safety net, because we've created all the SOPs, the standard operating procedures, the timelines, etc. So that's how I feel that people do build. But then what is really exciting for me is when you have that in place and it's working well, you're going to see all of the rising stars come up where you can internally promote, or you're saying, you know what, you are excellent at this, but it doesn't quite seem like you love to do this. Is there an internal transfer? I've moved people because IT has so many lanes from a starting entry point to several expanding, whether they wanted to become an engineer or they showed sparks of brilliance at being an engineer because of how methodical and detailed they were in executing the standard procedures every day. So that's where you get to sit back as a manager and really see people flourish and grow.
Yeah, that's exciting. Often in businesses, it's about the bottom line. It's about what can we do now in order to build the business fast, scale it, so on and so forth. Yeah. But when you're talking about people, these are softer skills, and this takes time because it's a matter of helping people align themselves with the business, helping them catch that vision, helping them to understand the expectations, and from the other side, the clear communication, so on and so forth. And working with people is never that straightforward. What role do you play in helping businesses understand that gap? And how do you bridge it?
I have to translate to businesses that people are intrinsically motivated by a factor. And as long as management and other people understand what motivates people and what we know them to be as individuals outside of this business, that's the only way to correlate it back to our mission and vision. And so in a particular department that I would lead, or if I was becoming an interim, or you hired me as a consultant to come in and help you, I would go through several exercises with your team, create and define missions for that department specifically, because a lot of times support service departments don't always have an opportunity to directly correlate how their impact gets more revenue to the company, but they're essentially like a utility. And these are like the HR department, the accounting and finance department, any physical housekeeping. There's really big departments with a lot of people that are there to help steer the culture, but don't know how they directly correlate back to what success looks like for the company or those company goals for the year. So you have to, as a leader, bridge that gap in, hey, here's the goals and here's how we impact them. But I also want to bleed into what are your guys' personal mission and vision. And what we'll find is a lot of them are family oriented. A lot of them are about personal growth. And so when they know that the company is also involved in that and how we can make that really relevant, it's a cultural conversation and a language that we all have to use the same common words, where we're not pushing towards this monetary goal. When you motivate people based on their needs and wants, it does help drive that specific behavior that you need for us to get there. And everybody is on the same team. So we have to individualize it. We have to get in there and have conversations with every single person. It is going to be a lot of work, but it is so worth it. And when you lay the foundation, the people that are there year after year will automatically adopt. All of the new people coming in, they'll help them adapt to that as well. So these long, hard exercises up front have 10x value for long-term success.
Neat. I'm curious, at what point do businesses call you in to get you to help?
I'm still, so I do a lot of different things for people. I work as a consultant in predictive index, which is a behavioral assessment in the workplace. And that helps people understand exactly who people show up and make sense in what they want to be, who they naturally show up as at work. From there, I help teams understand how to work together. And this is through my principal consulting with a consulting firm called Leap Development. But in my actual business of Fortifying Roots, I help people establish really good framework, process, and systems. But all of my degrees are in organizational strategy and leadership. So what's funny is I still have not found an opportunity at this point in time to go out to market where I am getting everybody's email subscribers and reaching out, which I'm very grateful for. It's all been word of mouth and referral, because this is a true and tried method that has been really working for people. So it's just not an attractive thing to sell because I like to control what's controllable from a lot of my experience. And I believe in businesses, 80% of a person's day-to-day work is controllable, repeatable, manageable, automated. And so that's what's usually when someone says, Meredith helped us fix this, they pass it on to their folks. So I've been in business not quite 2 years, and it has just been word of mouth over and over again. But I'm always open for networking and consulting, and I like fixing things. So,
No, that's great. I mean, word of mouth is genuine and organic, isn't it? You're not paying for anything. I mean, I feel like there's a lot of credibility there.
yeah, I've always been very grateful, and I think that lends itself, as I said before, when I communicate with people, it's from a place of authenticity where I truly just want to help folks, whether it be overcoming circumstances, really understanding your potential, or if it is helping you in your business strategy. And I think that's what bleeds through and allows people to really give me a lot of credibility and trust when they refer me on. I don't take it lightly. But at some point in time, maybe I'll head out there, but I have to have a really catchy tagline instead of control everything, because I feel like that is not going to fly off the shelves.
No, that's understandable. No, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
But listening to you speak, it reminded me of some things you said earlier on, and I think it sounds like you know how to move from survival mode into strategic growth.
Yeah.
Whether that's in the home with your mom or whether it's in the business, in the workplace.
Yeah. I've been very fortunate to wear a lot of hats. And, when my mom first got sick, one of the jobs that made a lot of money after, the circumstance of 9/11 was security. So I've been a security guard all the way up to working in hospitality. I've worked in a hospital setting for a very long time, food operations. So I feel I've worked in accounting for about 8 years as well, outside of IT. So I know every component of a business, start to finish, because I've worked with every department well. And that lends me some credibility and experience and expertise when people are painting a picture. Then I can say, have you considered the downstream effect on the accounting team when a marketing initiative is happening? Or if it's guest facing, I have customer service support. So did you anticipate that this response could happen from the guest if we implement a new software without a good change management communication plan? So I really help people understand that communication is key and is literally the foundation of every success and failure for projects and ideas in a company. So, yeah, I do feel both my personal experience and my professional development has led me to this place to really speak confidently to assist any company, regardless of the industry they're in.
That's fantastic. Meredith, I was just also want to touch again on the youth that you've mentored.
Yeah.
Helping them through some of their hard times and helping them understand what they're capable of.
Yes.
So what kinds of conversations happen around that?
Well, even well before that, I like to mentor youth because I didn't come from a background that was affluent or had a lot of prospects. Going to college was not a conversation that was in my household. And we grew up in a household that we all shared resources, rooms, that type of thing. And so I didn't know any different, and I didn't know what my opportunities were. I was a young person who loved to read, and that, I think, is what unlocked for me that other things were possible in my life. And also just having friends surrounding me that weren't in the same circumstance that I was in. And so what I want to really impart into youth is you have a lot more choices and you have a lot more opportunities to dream than you could ever imagine. And so right now, through your local chamber, through Big Brothers Big Sisters, different organizations like that, which are magnificent, my husband and I partner and help mentor youth because seeing a relationship that has been together for 15 years and being a part of that is also different for some children and some young adults. So I really am intentional around giving people insight and a different perspective into where I started to where I have been able and privileged to arrive through a lot of hard work and through leaning on others' expertise and a lot of research and reading. But it's so rewarding. Here, I live in Waco, Texas. There are so many opportunities, and I'm still surprised at how many youth initiatives that continue to bubble up that pull at my heartstrings because they're topics that I never would have. Youth homelessness is really big in the state of Texas, probably everywhere, but this is the first time I've encountered it. And then when I moved from Kansas, there was a lot of foster teens, knowing when they come out of the foster system, preparing them for how to create resumes, how to sign up for an apartment lease, how to learn to cook or do your laundry, those types of things. So very basic day-to-day how to adult versus really strong conversations on don't let this circumstance hold back who you're dreaming you can become. And really showing that my journey can unfold for them with just a few minor pivots of your mindset.
Wow, Meredith, that's it's so inspiring, and listening to you, it's evident that it's so rewarding for you as well.
Yeah. And sometimes they have it so together that I'm like, I don't know why you need a mentor. So I'm so inspired by some of the youth today and what they're able to really just have and how brilliant they are and where they want to go and how much they want to give back. And it's just so rewarding to just see that and be a part of it.
Yeah, I can imagine. I mean, it sounds like such a gift.
Yes. Yeah, I would agree for both, I would assume. But I would encourage anybody who has time. I do think, I'm a woman in tech. I've been a woman in tech. I've fortunately have not experienced anything that, I'm the type of personality that communicates and smiles really nice, but I don't allow anybody to tell me I don't deserve a seat at the table. And that's what I also want to impart in the young ladies that I mentor, that you're capable of anything. And we wouldn't let anybody tell you different.
Wow. That's great. That's really great.
Yeah.
Just changing gears a little bit here.
Yeah.
But what's a conversation that changed your business and you could change and could change someone else's if they had the courage to have it?
Oh, I feel like I've set up the last 15 to 20 years to arrive at this place. And it just was really gaining clarity around this. I'm a planner. I'm sure everybody can get that just from hearing this. I like things planned. I like them in their nice box. And that's not life. And that's not the life I was dealt. And so I want to make sure the conversation that I had, and I want people to understand this for themselves, is my husband. I was really talking through this business plan with him, this business idea, making sure I had all the IRS compliance, all the filing with the state. Like, I had to do so much research before I executed. And my husband was very kind to have a conversation with me because he saw I was spiraling out of fear. When it comes to me helping others, I have no fear. I have no anxiety. I will go 100 miles an hour. If it comes to me, I very much take a pause, really sometimes have imposter syndrome, and people get that. But what he mentioned was, you have overcome and have been successful at every role you've ever taken and everything that you've ever done. And you have succeeded every single thing up until this point. And if you are on this journey because this is what's pulling you and what you think your purpose is, I have no doubt in my mind that you will be anything but successful on this journey as well because of your mentality, your mindset, your drive. Pending you go on that road and you're not in the right place, you have so many opportunities to make a different choice after that, and you'll know for sure. So don't regret not doing it, and also have more faith in yourself because you have survived and succeeded everything up until this point. So I think that's not new words. I know that has been shared and said before, but that really resonated with me to have someone that has that type of support in me. And so my friend and I, we have a podcast as well for women, and that's what we want to make sure. Give people a different perspective of themselves and show them they're capable of more than they're giving themselves credit for. But then lastly, you have survived so many battles up until now. Don't give up on yourself at this moment in time. You're going to do it. And if it's still not the right choice or anything like that, you can change the narrative of your story, because your circumstance does not define success or the success that you arrive to.
I love that. Sounds like your husband gave to you the support that you offer to others.
Yes, he's been so kind. He's been on the journey with me and my mom, and so just really has been such a strength of support for me through a lot of the things that we've gone through. So
I love it. Meredith, this has been such fun. Thank you so much for sharing your story, your insights. I've really enjoyed it.
Oh, thank you. Yes, and I'm thrilled to be here and happy to help and connect anytime with you. This has been a joy.
Awesome. Before we wrap up though, Meredith, where can people connect with you or learn more about your work?
Yeah, absolutely. You can connect with me on my website, fortifyingroots.com, which is my technology consulting and business consulting. And then I do keynote and leadership workshops. And that also will be published on Fortifying Roots in June. But as of right now, it's mwalkerthetalker.com.
Nice. That's great. Thank you so much. And to those listening, you'll find all the links and details for Meredith in the description.
Yeah.
And if you're someone who's been thinking about using conversations to grow your own business, maybe even through a podcast, but don't have time to handle all the moving parts, that's exactly what we help with at Pod Junction. You can find out more at podjunction.com or just reach out to me on LinkedIn. So that's it for today. Bye from Meredith and from me. And I'll see you next time on Conversations That Grow.